So I am Fabienne Doucet. I was born in Spain, but my parents split up. And so my mom sent me to Haiti to be raised by my great aunt and uncle. Really, I grew up with them, calling them mom and dad. And it was just a really wonderful childhood. I am a mom, daughter, I'm a wife, a friend. I have two wonderful kids, and I'm a professor at NYU. I have been an educator probably for 20 something years. I started in graduate school. In graduate school, I started teaching undergraduate courses, and I have been out of graduate school now for 22 years. So you do the math. I am in the Department of Teaching and Learning. In our department, we prepare teachers. So I'm in early childhood education and urban education. And the courses that I teach, though, oddly enough, are not necessarily directly related. Then I started teaching our honors seminar for our seniors who want to do research projects. I also have taught many times our adolescent development class because my background, even though I'm in the early childhood education program and my research tends to be focused on younger children, my degree is in human development and family studies. And so I actually studied child through adolescent. I feel like it's been really interesting at NYU to get a chance to teach a bunch of different kinds of courses and not necessarily just sort of strictly in the area. And I think that's been really sort of intellectually stimulating, been really fun. I went into college as a biology major because I thought I was going to be a doctor. A pediatrician. That was my thing. I was going to be a pediatrician. I loved my pediatrician. My pediatrician was a Black woman who lived right up the street from me in Teaneck, New Jersey. She was fire. I was like, I'm going to be just like her. It's going to be amazing. And then I started taking those science classes in college, and it was like, wait, you have to do what? How much chemistry? And suddenly it was, the realization like, wow, actually, this is not what I want to do. So then I really had to sort of like sit back and think, what does interest me? And I realized the thing that interested me most about the idea of being a pediatrician was actually engaging with the children and the families. So then it became a matter of figuring out, okay, so how do you, so how do you do that? And started doing some research and learned that there's a field called child development and family studies, or sometimes human development and family studies, but we didn't have that at my college at Messiah. We had family studies, but no child development. So I was like at a crisis, and I was like, should I be leaving the university? What am I going to do with myself? But I had this incredible dean, Dr. Gish, and Dorothy Gish sat down with me, and she was like, we're going to figure this out together, and really helped me to actually craft an amazing undergraduate program for myself, where I was able to take classes. For a time, Messiah had an affiliation with Temple University, where you could be a fully matriculated Temple student, but also still be a fully matriculated Messiah student. And so I took courses in child development, Black families, all these really amazing classes at Temple. And then I did my family studies mostly at Messiah. So it was like this amazing opportunity to like study abroad or study away, but really not away, just like down the street. And then going into the sophomore year, I had the opportunity to be a research assistant for one of my professors who was teaching this course that I was really enjoying. And it was like in that process of being his research assistant in the library that suddenly I was like, I want to be a professor. At that point, it just felt like such a clear mission and message. And then that was that. It was like, okay, so then what do you need to do? At 19, as a college sophomore, it was like, this is the career for me. And it was more than about being a career too, I have to say, because I really do feel like we're all here for a reason. We all have a mission. We're all here to make an impact on the world in some sphere that is going to try to make the world just a little bit better. And I just felt like this is what God called me to. This is my lane. I'm in academia. This is where I'm supposed to make the difference. My research in the early part of my career was actually on US-born young children, African-American children living in the South. And that was a really fascinating study that I was a part of with my advisor for my master's and my PhD. But then in grad school, I had the opportunity to take an anthropology course, and our professor urged us to explore an area that we had not explored before, and sort of dropped the hint that sometimes the thing that you know the most is the thing that you need to, that you kind of know the least. So like look at your own experience. And so I was thinking of myself, okay, so I immigrated to the US at the age of 10. I was not born in the US, but I had in growing up, in Teaneck in New Jersey, I had a lot of Haitian friends, and a lot of them were born in the United States. And I was sort of like, I wonder what's different and similar about us growing up, being raised in this country, but like being raised here, born here and raised here, or like actually raised in Haiti and then coming here. So like, what is that experience? And so that's what I pursued for my postdoctoral research. And I joined the Harvard Immigration Projects that was doing this 5-year longitudinal study of newcomers from Haiti, the Dominican Republic, China, Mexico, and Central America. I just absolutely fell in love with really trying to understand the immigrant experience. And my study was a companion to that study, to the study of the big project. So that study was looking at what we call the 1.5 generation, because they come as children. So it's like they're 1.5. They got partly raised here and partly raised there. And my project was, like I was saying, interested in looking at like, what about that second generation of kids who are born in the United States, the Haitian parents? What does their identity look like? What does their identity process look like? And I just learned so much. It was a really fascinating exploration and learning about how at that time, actually, this is an interesting shift that I've seen in recent years. So I'm 48 years old. So it's like I've been around for a while. And I remember when being Haitian was not cool. And I remember when studying those young people, not all of them were willing to say that they were Haitian. Today, where everybody has their flag, everybody's proud. And it makes me it really warms my heart, because one of the things that we know in research on adolescence and on identity is when you don't really have peace with your identity, you actually have a harder time. It just kind of like managing and dealing with your emotional well-being. Like it can really impact you when you have kind of like a block or a shame about who you are. So it has been really wonderful for me to see, like, in my lifetime, a real change. And I feel like this means that the young people who are, like putting their identity front and center, loud and proud, they're not going to be dealing with some of the same things that my generation might have dealt with, or a little bit later generation might have dealt with, of like that shame. I don't want to say that I speak Creole. I don't want people to know where I'm from, and that sort of thing. When I was in undergrad, I'd taken a psychology course with this professor, or whatever, got a test or paper. I don't know what it was. I think it might've been a test or something. And I didn't get the grade that I wanted. I got like a B. And so I went to the professor and I was like, hey, I got this B. I would really love to get an A in this course. I'm trying to maintain my GPA. So I would just like to know what I can do next time to sort of make sure that I, can get the best grade. And she just looked at me and she was like, well, you're a B student though. Like, what else did you expect? In that moment, it was like, oh, now we're about to find out who's the B student. It was like this moment of her challenging my identity as a high achiever. And I was like, no, like, you're not going to tell me what kind of student I am, pigeonhole me and tell me who I am. But it did push me. My department chair at the time, the department chair's job is to help the junior people when they're putting their stuff together. They sit down with you, they read it with you, they help you, they give you tips, whatever. And this woman actually sat in my office and said to me, I would downplay the Haitian part of your work because you're never going to get famous doing research on Haitian. It was another one of those moments where I was like, are you kidding me right now? Also said, well, the good news is I didn't get into academia to be famous. I kept my statement like it was, with I'm a researcher of Haitian immigrants front and center. She didn't have the last word and she wasn't right. But just even to have the nerve, the audacity to say that to someone, and this is where I feel like, honestly, when I'm talking about, for me being in academia, like it's a mission. these are the kinds of experiences. I never want anybody else to have that kind of experience. I never want another underrepresented person, a woman, a non-binary person, anybody, a woman of color, like whatever it is, immigrant, whatever. I don't ever want anyone to have to sit through somebody telling you that your work is not worthwhile, that your work is not interesting, or that it's not good enough, or that it's not going to make you famous, like whatever the case may be. I really feel like, no, I am here to sort of like shift things and shift the culture, because academe has been around forever and ever. And there are some practices and habits and, just kind of ways of being that we have in academe that are toxic and really problematic and troubling. And I know that some people are called to change things from the outside, but I'm one of those people who's called to change things from the inside. My mom, and how much she was pushing me and encouraging me, always cheering for me, always like my biggest fan, and my family in Haiti, everybody just being so proud and just being like, yes, like keep going. And then once I had my kids, it's like, wanting to, be somebody that they can be proud of. So just like, I still have on my wall the pictures that my kids drew for me when I got tenure, like these cute little, kitty drawings, just for the 10-year-old Haitian girl who might be wondering, is there a place for me? Could I have a career? What am I going to be when I grow up? What are the options that are out there for me? Just knowing that by being in the spaces and the places that I am forging a path for that 10-year-old Haitian girl, man, that just like, it's so much fuel and so much joy for me in my heart to just feel like, wow, somebody's going to someday follow in this, in these footsteps, just like I'm following in footsteps that were laid out for me. Like we're all, you know what I mean? Like I'm standing on these incredible shoulders of giants. And I hope that I can be some shoulders that some young people can stand on someday. I recently became the executive director of the NYU Metropolitan Center for Research on Equity and the Transformation of Schools. And what is significant and historic about that is that I am the first woman executive director of the center. My predecessors were Black men. And I am also the first Black woman to lead a research center at the NYU Steinhardt School. And so that's also, quite an accomplishment. And it's one of those things where, like, the first time somebody said it to me, like, you're the first Black woman, I never thought that being the first Black woman would ever come before my name. And in some ways, it's obviously like, I'm very proud and I feel very honored, but I'm also like, come on, it's 2022. Like we shouldn't even be celebrating this. Like we should be like, dang, she's the first Black woman. Like this is, terrible. But no, I am proud of that. Again, like thinking about those young people who are going to get a chance to see, like, as a Black woman, this is something that I can do too.
Yes. And representation matters. Remember, you're a pediatrician, so
that's right.
As humble as you are about this, I had to dig it out of you. So thank you for that. And what have been some challenges being the first, not only in your position, the first Black woman? I'm sure it comes with its challenges in itself. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So it is a big job. The NYU Metro Center is this incredible place that is really front and center on pushing for equity in the education system for young people. There are several subunits within Metro that do direct work, with schools, with districts, with young people. And the people there are just an amazing group of people. And then we also have, as a traditional research center at a university, we also have a research side where we're doing research, we're supporting faculty to do their research. And so one of the challenges really has been first to sort of wrap my mind around the bigness of it and all these sort of moving parts. just kind of trying to like make sense of that, which I know that doesn't necessarily have to do with being a Black woman, but just like, this is just like part of the, beginning to say, okay, so you've got this going on, you've got that going on. Okay, now you have the full picture. But then I would say that my colleagues, even though my colleagues, I think, have been incredibly supportive, it's like on the outside world, I know that there are people who would kind of underestimate me and sort of undermine or undercut, just kind of overlook. That is something that I feel, even though, again, within my institution, I have to say, I have been, really, really fortunate to have so much support and so much love and so much, sort of like encouragement. I know that some people are going to think like, why her? Why is she in this role? So I think it's kind of those, I guess the challenge is it's almost internal, because it's like those voices that I know might be there. And I have to just kind of quiet them down and just remind myself, like, you are where you're supposed to be. This is exactly where you are meant to be. And you have, an amazing team of people who are really behind you and rooting for you. I think when I think about sort of like at the core of my professional joy, the core of my professional joy is mentorship. Mentorship makes my heart beat. That is what I want to do. And so one of the things that I remember, an early conversation that I had with a colleague of mine when I was thinking about taking this role, right? And I was like, should I do it? Should I not do it? And I said, but like, I don't really know what a center director does, but what I really want to be is a mentor. And my colleague said, well, then that's what you'll do. You get to shape what that role looks like. For me, mentorship, it's vertical sometimes, it's also horizontal, and it's diagonal. So it's really about this collaboration and this setting that we're creating of we're all learning and we're all building. We're all learning, we're all building. In many ways, when I think of a femme Potomitan, I think of a woman who is grounded, who knows who she is, and who is able to be a source of inspiration and strength. I do hope that that is the role that I'm playing. My children used to sing when they were part of the children's choir at church, you gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. And I was like, that's it. Like, that's the kind of leader I want to be. I want to lead with love. I want that to be the motivation for where I begin, remembering that we're grounding ourselves. We're grounding our work in love for our students, in love for our communities, in love for one another. Not the most amazing social media person, but I do have some fun on Twitter. Please. My Twitter handle is @bailabomba, BAILABOMBA. So because I was an early adopter, like with these things, you never really know where they're going to go. So when I was joining Twitter, it was like 4 people were on there. So I was like, who cares? Like, I'll just come up with this random handle. And then a few people have asked me, like, how come you never changed it? And I'm like, well, because I'm still that girl. I think like being true to all the different parts of us, and not, because I think one of the things that can happen sometimes, especially in academia, but I think for professional women in general, is you feel like you have to like put away this part of yourself, put away that part of yourself. Nobody wants to hear about that. Nobody wants to see that. And I think we need to bring our full selves to the table. Everything, the silly, the serious, the, don't play with me, the like, let's go, just have a great evening and have some fun, just all of the different things. So that's why I was like, I thought about it for a little while, because I was like, this is kind of silly. But then I'm like, you know what? But people are going to be asking me like, why the heck is that your handle? And I'm going to say, come dancing with me and you'll find out.